Coming up, New York is back. The new COVID mandates that are now history here in the city.
And a big warm-up coming this weekend, record high temperatures and a chance for rain.
And New York Live sits down with James Monroe Iglehart at his favorite place in the theater district, Junior's. Hey, what's up? This is News 4 Now for March 4th. I'm Kay Ingram. Now, it's been a long time coming, and with COVID infection rates dropping, mandates around here are dropping too. Let's talk about it. In Times Square, Mayor Adams announced the key to NYC vaccination requirement, and the indoor school mask mandate will be lifted Monday. Adams has promised that if COVID numbers stay low, the mask mandate for city schools will also be dropped. The key to NYC mandate, which requires New Yorkers to show proof of vaccination before entering indoor spaces like gyms and restaurants, will drop too. There are now less than 1.5% of people testing positive for COVID daily.
Folks can come in and enjoy the restaurants, enjoy the businesses, and be a part of this great city without having to show proof of vaccination. So that means our restaurants, our businesses, and our concert venues will no longer need to require patrons to provide this proof. Now, restaurants, they still can use their discretion if they desire. It's up to them, but the overall restriction is being removed.
Unchanged is the city's vaccine requirement to work. All private sector workers in New York City are still required to be fully vaccinated. New Jersey's school mask mandate also lifts on Monday. And a deadly crash on the FDR Drive. It happened around 4:30 Friday morning. We're told a car crashed into the guardrail there and burst into flames. 2 women in the car were killed. Police tell us the 33-year-old man driving the car is in custody for DWI-related offenses. He was taken to the hospital in critical but stable condition with burns and cuts. News 4 has learned that Jacoby Hospital is now the first city-run hospital to install a new weapon screening system. We're told that uniformed NYPD officers are also on hand to help. You're not allowed to bring firearms into city hospitals, if you didn't know. Nonetheless, on January 25th, a man was shot during an argument in the waiting room outside Jacoby's emergency room. The alleged gunman was arrested hours later, but the shooting still left hospital workers and patients fearing for their safety. Up next, you've probably noticed a ton of organizations stepping up in support of Ukraine. But there's one special relief drive on Long Island that is raising some eyebrows. Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman is asking New Yorkers to help arm Ukrainians. Over the next 3 days, Blakeman is urging legal gun owners to donate firearms to send overseas, like rifles. He even bought an AK-47 rifle to donate.
We want this over now. The Ukrainian people want to protect themselves. So let's give them the resources to do that. So this doesn't develop into a European war and a world war.
Long Island Congressman Andrew Garbarino says he's reached out to the White House to find out how donated weapons could get to Ukraine. A Homeland Security spokesperson says the State Department would have to okay a weapons shipment like this.
Hey, I'm meteorologist Matt Brickman. Plenty of sunshine to finish out the week, but heading into the weekend, we've got a warm-up coming. Big warm front lifts through the area. Eventually, this will bring us a little bit of rain on Sunday and maybe even some record-setting high temperatures. Let's kind of walk through the weekend here. We've got clouds for you with temperatures back to average on Saturday, but Sunday's more interesting, frankly. A couple of showers early on in the morning, and then the best chance of rain, I think, comes towards the middle of the day with these passing showers. But then watch what happens here in the afternoon. Skies clear out, we've got sunshine, and temperatures climbing into the upper 60s, which would be close to a record in Central Park that stood since 1935, and you can expect to be around record highs at Newark, Bridgeport, Islip, and Poughkeepsie as well. This would be our 5th set of record high temperatures just in the last month. February and March certainly getting warmer.
Up next, he has played some of the biggest roles on Broadway. New York Live sat down with James Monroe Iglehart at his favorite spot in the theater district and to talk about his latest role in Chicago. Check it out.
This is such a treat because I feel like out of everybody on Broadway, I've like mildly been stalking you since Aladdin. Let me just put it out there. No, you know what it is? There are certain interviews that stay with you,
Yes.
and I will never forget interviewing you for that role and how kind you were.
Thank you.
And I know it wasn't your first Broadway role, but I got to watch you at the Tonys, and then, you know, Hamilton, Freestyle Love Supreme, and now Billy Flynn in Chicago.
I've had the best career, and to be here in 2022 in the longest running American musical on Broadway. If you'd have told me that in 2007 when I started in Spelling Bee, I'd have thought you were insane.
I remember seeing you in Aladdin, and I remember we were talking, and you said, yeah, but I'm gonna make it my own.
Yes.
And you did make it your own.
Thank you.
I saw you in Hamilton. You made that role your own
Thank
as
you.
well. But now stepping into the role of Billy Flynn, I mean,
Yes.
how many people have played that role on Broadway?
Countless.
Countless.
But Jerry Orbach created Billy Flynn, and he put his stamp on it, and that stamp has gone down through the ages. And I went and looked at YouTube clips of my boy Wayne Brady, Todrick Hall, Norm Lewis, Chuck Cooper, all of my brothers that did Billy Flynn. I wanted to know, how did they do it, and what can I do different so that it makes it mine?
I am so curious about what that feeling is like when you were on that stage.
It's a different feeling for each show, but I will say with Billy, there are the most beautiful women on Broadway singing my name, and I come out of steps and a spotlight hits. And there is nothing like that spotlight on you. It's hard to describe. It's the feeling I've had since the first time I picked up a microphone when I was 4 and heard those applause. My father also told me, he was like, look, if you're gonna get a job, what would you do for free, and find a way to get paid to do that?
That's some of the
I
best
would,
advice out
I would
there.
do this for free.
Yeah.
Don't tell nobody that.
Don't tell anybody that.
We'll just edit that part out.
My favorite human being, thank you so much. You are an absolute joy.
You've probably noticed a lot more people out in the streets, even here in the subway. Well, granted, maybe not as many as before the pandemic, but still, when it comes to offices, they're still pretty empty. And it turns out that local leaders are noticing and are now pushing for changes to the work week. News 4's Andrew Siff is here with the deets.
When Governor Hochul said it on Tuesday, it seemed like a shift.
It may never be a 5-day week again.
And when Mayor Adams said it today, it felt like a trend.
It may include a 4-day week.
Both leaders reflecting reality. New York City has not returned to work in full force 2 years after the pandemic began.
Employers are being very careful. This is the third time we've tried to summon people back to the office.
Kathy Wild is president of the Partnership for New York. They represent hundreds of companies that employ about 1 million people in the city. A new survey shows only 35% of the city's office workers have returned full time. Business leaders expect that number to jump to 50% by the end of this month.
The employers, the companies, are not making these decisions. It's the people, the employees.
Wild says tens of thousands of people realized working remotely had its advantages as the pandemic continued longer than anyone predicted.
There's a lot of new habits that are out there, and employers are trying to be respectful of their people.
But if government leaders are being patient, that only goes so far.
One thing is for sure, you cannot remotely run a city like this. There must be in-work interaction.
A sentiment these downtown workers agree with.
I actually like the 5-day in-person work week. I miss human interactions, you know. I mean, I'm talking to you right now, otherwise I'd be home.
And the Partnership for New York, which represents business leaders, predicts that eventually you'll see something that looks more like pre-pandemic workforce levels in offices in New York City, but maybe not until Labor Day. In Lower Manhattan, Andrew Siff, News 4 New York.
All right, that's it for today's show. Thanks for checking in. I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here next week on News 4 Now. See ya.